Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And on this segment of the show, I have a certified financial planner, certified divorce financial analyst, and licensed investment professional, Adrienne Rothstein Grace. And she is the founder of Transitioning Finances, and she's calling in all the way from Buffalo, New York. Now, Adrienne has a wealth of knowledge in the area of divorce and finances, and we'll be talking to you today about how to prepare for the financial ramifications of divorce. Now, we all care so much and feel so passionately about our money, so today is going to be a really interesting conversation. So with that said, let's not keep waiting any longer. Welcome to the show, Adrienne.
Thank you very much, Stuart. It's a pleasure to be here.
You are so welcome. So, Adrienne, let's just jump straight in. In your own words, if you would, can you just briefly describe the people who you serve and let's say the kind of situations they find themselves in when they come to you for help?
Well, the people that I work with are either contemplating divorce or they're faced with that decision in front of them. They are usually the spouse who did not manage the finances of the marriage, and they have very high anxiety about their financial security during and after the divorce. I help them understand their financial situation and negotiate better settlements that they can live with now and later. Because as we unfortunately know, marriage is about love and divorce is about money.
Keeping that in mind and also remembering that anything you share with us today, Adrienne, is not legal advice or legal assistance. Can you briefly share some of the most common misconceptions surrounding the financial ramifications of divorce?
Well, often there are several issues. Among the most common misconceptions or mistakes that are made is not considering the long-term effect of a negotiated settlement. When our lawyers do a great job in helping our clients to negotiate and come down to the bottom line, they will often stop at that point. When the documents are signed, the lawyer's job is done. And often, unfortunately, we find that while the settlement may be good for now, it may not work down the road. There may be other financial situations that should have been taken into consideration and may have been missed. One of the most frequent issues that I see is often the spouse who's responsible for the children, often the wife, will keep the house in exchange for the retirement plan. She'll often say, well, I promised him that he could have his retirement plan. After all, he may have worked for that while I was home with the kids, and I'll just keep the house. That is not always a good situation and can, unfortunately, come back to be something that she may regret.
Can you share an example of how you've helped someone who came to you with those challenges or even something similar, and what kind of transformational results you were able to gain for them?
Well, certainly. I did have a client who came in and said exactly that. I've been home with the kids. He's been out working and earning the retirement plan, and I promised him that he could have it. And so what I suggested to her was that perhaps that might be what came out in the end, but wouldn't it be a lot better to understand what his pension and retirement plan was actually worth so that we could be able to make a more informed decision? So we did the research, looked into it, and determined that the value of the plan was about 3 times as much as the value of the house. So we were able to use that information and negotiate a much better I'd call it a deal, but a much better value for her, where they split the equity in the house and they split the value of the pension. And that was enough for her to buy a right-sized house for herself and the children and give her a fresh start with some extra cash and some retirement funds for her for the future. It's so easy to forget that the decisions that are made now are irrevocable in most cases. You don't get a do-over. Whatever you decide right now is what it's going to be. So I want to make sure that I can help my clients have as much information to make that right decision, to make that informed decision with confidence that it'll work for them now and later on too.
That's really interesting feedback, because mostly you hear people going at loggerheads, they're going to war with each other, trying to get as much as they can out of the situation of divorce. But with that client that you just mentioned, it sounded almost, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounded almost as if she was passive in a sense and saying, hey, it's okay, you can have it. Is that something to be really aware of, or is that something you come across on a regular basis?
Oh, Stewart, I come across this all the time. The negotiation and the divorce is really a reflection of what the relationship may have been between husband and wife during the marriage. And often, even now, there's still a division of labor in the household where, especially when you have young kids, and where the choice has lovingly been made for the wife to stay home with the children. I see that so often with highly compensated professional men who make a lot of money. And after all, in our hearts as women, it may be our dream to stay home, and be mom. But in doing that, they often give up knowledge of the finances of the household and come into a pattern, again, particularly with highly compensated professional men who are used to making decisions. And so there comes to be a dynamic where, what he says goes. And if he's the one who's controlling the checkbook or controlling the flow of money, the intimidation factor can be there, either overtly or covertly. And, we often would prefer to just not have that high level of conflict, just kind of say, well, whatever you want, I need to be out of this. I don't want to subject the children to that kind of conflict, or myself. So one of the main things that I suggest to my clients, and it's my absolute best piece of advice, is to form a team. Going through a divorce is such a major life event. You don't need to do it alone. And my ideal component of a team is very basically, of course, you need an attorney to provide the legal information. Or you may either go through an attorney and a litigated case where both parties hire attorneys and go to court, or you may choose a mediator that can help the couple come to an agreement out of court. And there's even a third choice, and that's called collaborative law. In collaborative law, all the professionals have been trained to help people come to agreement out of court. It's a much more respectful procedure. It's generally less expensive and really helps to keep the conflict level down so that people can come to agreement rather than having to fight over everything. But whichever way you choose, everyone should have a lawyer for legal advice. Perhaps they may use a mediator to help them come to an agreement. I really, really urgently suggest to my clients that they see a therapist or a counselor. Just for advice, perhaps during this time period, divorce is so emotional that having a therapist or a mental health counselor can help people get over some of those emotional issues that can stall negotiations and can really raise the level of conflict beyond what it needs to be.
Today's topic is how to prepare for the financial ramifications of divorce. Now, with that in mind, and for those divorcing couples out there looking at their options, what are one or two of the most common unknown pitfalls they might not but should be aware of?
Well, we are in tax time. This is, we're approaching the deadline for filing income taxes, and Uncle Sam is a hidden participant in many divorce settlements. Alimony is taxable to the recipient, and it's a tax deduction to the person who's paying it. That's a benefit to the payor, but many people who are going to be receiving alimony forget to calculate the tax bill to get to what the net cash is really going to be. Also, when people talk about taking pro-investment accounts and then liquidating them to provide more money to buy another house or just pay regular expenses, often when there are profits in those accounts, selling them generates a tax bill on the profits, as well as other tax issues which can arise from joint tax returns. So that is a very major issue, and that's why I play that role often in divorce negotiations and helping people realize and plan for what the tax implications may be.
Could you just briefly tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of your background and your education and the experience you have as it relates to the topic of the divorce process?
Sure, Stewart. I've done a lot in financial services. Actually, I think I've done everything. Over a long career, I've been a banker, I've been a teller, I've been a trust officer, I've been an investment professional and a financial planner, and my background is in teaching adults. But about 8 years ago or so, I had 3 women in a row come into my wealth management practice, and each of them had a funky issue about the finances of that divorce that had not been handled properly. Now, I'm both divorced and widowed, and so I'm familiar with the process, but of course I was the financial person, so that was not the major issue in my divorce. But when I was talking to them, I realized what a huge area of anxiety this is, and how little people often know about how money really works and how much you need support during that divorce process. So it's now really my joy and my privilege to help people make sense out of the finances of their divorce and support them as they go through the process, and then help them rebuild after.
Right, and is this something that you really enjoy when you wake up every day? Is this something that you really look forward to then, Adrienne?
I love this work. I really do. I'm so thrilled that as an entrepreneur, I realize that I get to choose what area I work in, and this is my choice. When I initially see a client, they are often weepy and small and disempowered. They're at the low point of their lives. And it's part of the joy of what I do to help them come through that, to gain information, to gain knowledge, to gain confidence, and to rebuild themselves into either who they used to be or who they'd rather be, and really see that transformation. That's what runs me.
So with that said then, Adrienne, could you just picture in your mind's eye the kind of person who comes to you for help and wants to know how to get themselves prepared for the financial ramifications of divorce? So with that in mind, what kind of thoughts would you like to leave that person with?
You don't have to do this alone. Experts are out there, professionals are out there to help you through the process. Take advantage of them. As I said before, form that team, a lawyer, a therapist, a financial advisor, particularly a certified divorce financial analyst at this particular time. And they can help you get through this process with confidence and with the knowledge that you're doing the very best that you can for yourself and your children.
We've spoken about the misconceptions, some of the pitfalls. You've shared some great information about yourself and your background. Now, I do understand that you recently launched a book. Are some of the topics that we've spoken about inside of that book?
Absolutely. The book is called Going from We to Me, A Financial Guide to Divorce. And in the book, I touch on all the topics that we've talked about today and lots more. And although names and circumstances have been altered, I use vignettes, little stories about my clients to illustrate each of the issues that comes up in the course of a divorce. So I think it's very readable. My friends and clients have told me that it is. And it's my pleasure to have it up available on Amazon.com for anyone who'd wish to purchase it.
I'll make sure that the link to your book is on the site alongside your show notes. But if there is somebody else out there who wants to know more about how to prepare for the financial ramifications of divorce, then Adrienne, how would they be able to connect with you? Where would they find you?
Okay, well, my email is Adrienne, ADRIENNE, at adriennegrace.com. And I have a website, which is transitioningfinances.com. And if anyone would like to call me for further information, they're certainly welcome to do so. My number is 716-817-6425.
Thank you so much, Adrienne, for sharing so generously. You certainly have demonstrated that you're a true educator and advocate for your client success. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Stewart. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you do get in touch with Adrienne. That's Adrienne Rothstein Grace. You're certainly going to be in good hands based on what she shared with us today. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to you, the listener, for joining us in on this very insightful and what I can only describe as an informative conversation with one of the top certified financial planners, certified divorce financial analyst, and licensed investment professionals in Buffalo, New York today. So again, make sure you do check her out, give her a call, drop her an email. You're going to be in a good place. So that's it for today. I'm Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading divorce professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.